Big up, Reluctant Gamer. Big up, bro. So, guys, obviously, Europa League tomorrow. Manchester United versus Tottenham. And as we already know, it's going to be a massive game for both sides. Postecoglou, Tottenham. I think you'd expect Postecoglou, as I said, to, regardless of what happens, I don't think he stays on. And I would say the same with, you keep hearing conflicting stories about Ruben Amorim. Some people think he's going to stay. Some people think if he loses the final, then he'll be gone. Big up, Gamer. In my opinion, as you guys already know, regardless of this win, I think Ineos just need to act upon it, and do what's right for the club. Because I think this manager staying, for me, is a non-story, So I'd like to see the club act and remove him regardless. I think definitely if there's a loss tomorrow, they'll have no other choice but to do that. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But what we're going to look at, guys, is a certain player from Tottenham, that I think will be crucial tomorrow in the game, and that's Micky Van De Ven. I think Micky Van De Ven, for me, I look at him in terms of centre-backs in the league, and I would say, on his day, and I think there's a lot of things when he's on his day, but I'm saying more or less when he's fit. I think on his day is a bit too far, because I think when you're saying someone on their day, I don't think it's a good tag to have. But I would say when he's fit, I think he's one of the best centre-backs in the league, Only been at Tottenham for, 2 seasons? And as we know, his career has been blighted by injury. Gamer, big up, man. I will get back to your comments after. I'm going to just discuss Micky Van De Ven, and then, I'll get back to your chat. Guys, make sure your chats are incoming. As I said, if you haven't smashed that like button, make sure you do. It's only one press of the button to help the channel grow. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. And as I said, I will get back to your comments after. So, as I said, Micky Van De Ven, for me, is going to be key tomorrow. 24 years of age. Obviously, his career has been blighted by injury, noticeable with his hamstring. And as I said, I think he will be key tomorrow, and we're going to go through why I think he'll be key. But first off, we're going to look at the numbers, and what I've done, I've compared his numbers in terms of his appearances, the key attributes as well for a defender. And I've compared him with his fellow countryman, Matthijs de Ligt. Big up to Sham. I've compared him with Matthijs de Ligt, who, look at the appearances, are a little bit similar. But, I was going to compare him to Van Dijk, but I don't think that's fair because, again, Van Dijk's had so much more appearances than Van De Ven, and obviously he's been in a more successful team as well. So, again, I've compared him with another countryman in Matthijs de Ligt. And we're going to go through, as I said, the numbers. So, again, Micky Van De Ven, as I mentioned, 24 years of age, was signed from Wolfsburg for 43 million. And most importantly, guys, I think before we get into the stats, so I think in terms of his main attribute, which is his pace, I think he's clocked a speed of 37.38 kilometers. And that's in comparison to second and third, which was Gareth Bale at 36.90 and then Kylian Mbappe at 36.70. So I think you're looking at the quickest centre-back or maybe the quickest player in the game right now, I think to clock that speed of 37.38, takes some doing. And as I said, I think you had Bale at second and Mbappe at third. So, but getting into it, so Micky Van De Ven is coming to big up Ivedra, big up to Nathan as well. Nathan, I knew you'd be back on, doing your Declan Rice prop again. But listen, if you enjoy the show, man, then stay in and get involved in the chat. So Micky Van De Ven, 39 appearances over 2 years, which again for me is I think that's it's pretty shocking when you think about it, because that's just one short of, you know, a full Premier League season. And as I said, he's been blighted by injuries, you know, and I think to have 39 appearances in 2 years, and again, you know, he's got one more appearance to make at the end of the season, which will make it 40. But to have, you know, just under, you know, a full season in over 2 years ain't great, you know. But as I said, you know, he's been blighted by injury, most notably the hamstring. So 7 appearances in the Europa League, you know. And if we look at the key attributes, as I said, for a defender, so he's got 6 clean sheets, 53 goals conceded when he's been in the team, and he's got 59 tackles with a success rate of 69%, which is very good. Interceptions. And why I like interceptions is because interceptions for me focuses a lot on positioning. So, you know, if a player has high interceptions, it means the majority of the time he's in the right position to intercept the ball. So his interceptions are 28, clearances 106, ball recoveries 205. Now the thing is, his ball recoveries are going to be high because a lot of the time his pace is the one that gets the recoveries higher up, you know, because obviously the way that Christian Romero plays, you know, he's the aggressor, and not Romero, and Van De Ven normally covers up, you know, if there's been a changeover in possession for the other team. You know, because of his pace, he does get them out of a lot of issues, you know. Guys, as I said, big up yourselves for coming on. I will get back to your questions after. Duels 160, aerial battles 157, and just one error leading to goals, you know. And then you've got 23 fouls conceded, yellow 9 cards, 0 red cards. So that's Micky Van De Ven's career in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons. Again, the one notable thing that I would say, which is concerning, is the appearances. You know, to have 39 appearances in 2 years isn't great if you cost 43 million. But again, the injuries have killed him, and it's up to him to kind of, you know, overcome that. So then we switch over to Matthijs de Ligt. And as I said, guys, I was going to do Van Dijk, but Van Dijk's had so many more appearances. And de Ligt, in comparison, has had, I think, 10 fewer. So I tried to look at someone who's comparable, you know, and as I said, I think it's one of them things where, you know, I think it's right to compare him, as I said, a fellow countryman as well. So Matthijs de Ligt, obviously 25 years of age, you know, he's been around forever, it looks like, with de Ligt. I think de Ligt made his debut at 16, I believe, for Ajax, and obviously being the youngest ever captain as well. 29 appearances for Man United, 3 clean sheets he's been involved in, which, to be fair, ain't great, you know, but I'll definitely say Matthijs de Ligt makes that United defence stronger when he's there. But to have 3 clean sheets, I think is surprising. Goals conceded 30. Goals conceded 36. Tackles 30 with a success rate of 73%, which to be fair is incredible, really, when you think about it. And I think a lot of the times when you watch de Ligt very rarely gets when it comes to 50-50s. He very rarely gets, you know, done by the attacker. So to have a success rate of 73% from 30 tackles is very good. You know what I mean? So yeah, clearances 91, ball recoveries 68, duels 102, which again you'd expect. I think aerially he's very dominant. You know, very physical as well, and has decent pace, de Ligt, you know. So to have a duels 1 of 102, which is good. Aerial battles 158, which again I probably expected a bit more higher, but as I said, very dominant in the air. Errors leading to goals 0. 16 fouls committed, 3 yellow cards, 0 red cards for Matthijs de Ligt. And again, guys, what I would say, 2 players for me that are very comparable. You know, I know de Ligt's had slightly less appearances. You know, similar age, one's 25, one's 24. But I think in terms of defenders in the league, I think these are two of the best defenders. I think if we're looking at defenders in the league that are regarded as the best defenders, you've obviously got the pairing of Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate. You got Saliba and Gabriel. Then we look at, I like Wesley Fofana, but Fofana's very injury prone. Who else we got in the league? Guys, if there's anyone else that you can think of, defenders that you think should be regarded as one of the best, then put that in the chat. So we've got Van Dijk, Konate, Saliba, Gabriel. I think Milenkovic deserves a shout from Nottingham Forest, him and Murillo. But I think De Ligt and Van De Ven have to be in there. Definitely. And then, as I said, Wesley Fofana's injury prone. Who else is there? But I'll go along with them ones and say that they're the most commanding centre-backs in the league. You know, there might be a few others, but I think we're looking at those ones that I've mentioned as the ones that are the most talked about or the best defenders. So we're looking at, who edges it in terms of the stats from the ones I just read out. So in terms of clean sheets, Micky Van De Ven has the most clean sheets, 6-3. Goals conceded, Matthijs de Ligt has conceded the less amount of goals. But again, let's take into account, guys, that de Ligt has had fewer appearances than what Van De Ven has had. So these things might be a bit distorted. Tackles, Micky Van De Ven. Success rate, de Ligt. As I said, 73% success rate. I reckon that's probably one of the best in the league, if not the best, Interceptions, de Ligt, again, positioning comes into question. And I think with Van De Ven as well, what is important to point out is that Van De Ven is someone where his positioning, for me, I think every defender needs to have good positioning. I think it's a key strength for a defender. But I think someone like Van De Ven, because he's got so much pace, his positioning, can be, a little bit off, and you wouldn't really mind as much because his recovery pace, as I said, is the best in the league. And I think a lot of that might get him out of trouble. So his positioning, for me, isn't that much of an issue. If you're a slower centre-back, your positioning needs to be on point. But for someone like him, like Van De Ven, I think, his pace is so good, his positioning isn't really that much of a necessity for me. Ball recoveries, Van De Ven, Jules 1, Van De Ven. Errors leading to goal, so de Ligt wins that because he's got 0. Less fouls committed, Matthijs de Ligt. And aerial battles 1, Matthijs de Ligt. Yeah, so very, very even, I would say, But as I said, because there's 29 appearances for de Ligt and 29 and 39 for Van De Ven, that gap of 10, might sway a bit of these things. But I think it's fair to say that, you're looking at, as I say, two of the best defenders in the league outside the obvious ones in the pairings for Liverpool and Arsenal. And again, I think you'd put Milenkovic and Murillo in the conversation with Van De Ven and de Ligt for me, and any other players that, might get talked about, So, guys, what I want to talk about is Micky Van De Ven, as I said, just done a little piece on him just now. So why I think he's going to be the key defender in, or one of the key players for Tottenham in this final tomorrow. For me, as I've mentioned, and big up to Xedra. Guys, if you didn't see the show yesterday with me and Xedra, we went for 2 hours and 45 minutes, which was mad. But if you get a chance to check out the stream on my channel, give that a check, guys, because there was some good conversation there. We spoke about Man United and Tottenham's chances in the Europa League final. Obviously, we spoke about the Champions League final as well with PSG and Inter Milan. And again, we done our team of the season, which again we'll discuss at the end. But our team, which again, if you haven't seen it, make sure you give that a check. But we'll go through it at the end anyway. And we kind of compared it to what the pundits, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, would do. And we kind of got it right on what they would pick. for a few of them. But yeah, as I said, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you give that a check out and let us know what you think. As I say, it's 2 hours 45, so it is a long one, but very worth watching. But so yeah, for me, Micky Van De Ven, guys, I think in terms of tomorrow's game, he'll be at the back with Christian Romero. And for me, I think the partnership for both of them, I think it's a decent partnership, if I'm honest, because you've got the aggressor and then you've got the more composed player in Van De Ven. And as I said, you've got Van De Ven's pace, for me, is frightening, really. I've never seen any attacker outdo him for pace. And to be fair, I don't think you're going to really see that either. I think personally, in terms of what Man United have up there tomorrow, I think we're expecting it to be Rasmus Højlund. I think if it is Rasmus Højlund that is up against Van De Ven and Romero, I think that's going to be a massive problem for United. And as I said, you're going to have Romero that's going to be the aggressor, and then Van De Ven's pace will mop up anything that tries to get in behind. And I think this is why, for me, he's going to be key, because with him in the team, Tottenham can afford to play a high line, knowing that you've got his pace on the recovery. And I think if you've got a striker in Højlund that isn't going to hold the ball up, that ball is going to keep coming back and inviting pressure onto United's defence, And I think with the front three that they're going to play, in my opinion, which will be Brennan Johnson on the right, Son on the left, and Solanke through the middle, I think you've got three players there that have decent pace. So if the ball's going to keep coming back, where Højlund can't hold the ball up, it might just take one pass to get those three players, into the half spaces, into the gaps, to cause Man United all sorts of problems for me, And I think Van De Ven plays a massive role in this, because if Van De Ven doesn't play, then that defensive line of Romero and whoever plays at the back there is going to drop probably 5 or 10 meters deeper. So I think personally, him just being in that team is going to change it. Is going to be a massive plus for Tottenham as a whole, because it's going to allow them to push higher up the pitch, and again, keep that constant pressure. And as we know with Tottenham as well, Tottenham do score goals regardless of the season they're having. So for me personally, I just think that with Van De Ven, he's going to be crucial tomorrow. And I think that side with Van De Ven and Udogie, as we know, has got pace, as we know, has physicality as well. And we would assume on that side, you're going to look at Ahmad. Whether Ahmad plays as the wing-back tomorrow, I'm not too sure. But we're looking at probably Ahmad and Mazraoui on that side up against Udogie and Son, which I think will be a very good battle. But to have Van De Ven on that side as well with that pace, I think he's gonna cause major problems for United, And it's weird, because to say that you've got a defender, that's your deepest. Well, to say that you've got a defender that's going to cause problems for the opposition, I think it speaks highly of how important I think Van De Ven is. And as I said, if it's a different defender, for sure, they will drop deeper, because, as I said, Højlund has pace, but I think they're that confident with Micky Van De Ven, they're going to definitely push their team high up the pitch. And as I said, that's going to invite pressure onto United's defence and midfield if Højlund can't keep the ball. So that's why I think tomorrow, if Ruben Amorim went for a false nine, let's say he played a Mason Mount up there as a false nine, someone that can drop into the midfield and pack that midfield out or overrun the midfield for Tottenham. Because I believe Tottenham will play a three in there. I think it's going to be Papa Sarr. I think it's going to be Basuma and Bentancur as well. And I think that with a false nine, you can allow that midfield to outnumber Tottenham there. Whether he does that or not, I don't know, because he might want the outlet of playing the ball up to a Højlund and seeing if he can hold it up or run the channels. But again, that could play into Tottenham's hands. So again, he's got a massive decision to make. Obviously, we heard news today that Joshua Xerxes back in training. I don't expect Xerxes to play any part, really. I think if he's lucky, he'll be on the bench, you know, and even that, he's not going to be match fit as well. Dallo and Lenny Yoro, obviously we heard they're back in training. I think the Lit, we can safely say he's out of it. Dallo and Yoro, I think, have a chance, but we'll have to wait and see. I think the press conference is going to come today at 7 o'clock, I think. Something around that time. But it'd be interesting to see if Dallo and Yoro actually start. You know, I think if they are involved, I think personally they might be involved from the bench. You know, because he might be taking a big risk. I mean, if there's no complications in the training, then he'll have a decision to make. But you know, if there is something that they're not totally 100%, then it's probably best to just, you know, have them on the bench, and then if you want to change things, bring them on. You know, but as I said, for sure, Van De Ven for me is going to be a very important player. And I think as well, I think it's important to look at Van De Ven in terms of what is his career beyond Tottenham, you know, because I think the one question mark against him is his injury record, you know, and I think if he can prove definitely, because I think definitely next season he's at Tottenham anyway, but I think next season, if he can prove he's over his injuries, I don't necessarily think he stays at Tottenham, because I think he's a player, especially with the attributes that he has, you know, the fact that he's a left-footed centre-back as well. I think he's a rare profile of defender in terms of having that pace and that composure on the ball, and the fact that he's left-footed. You know, because I think if we look at all the top teams around world football, you know, a left-sided centre-back is a priority, in my opinion. You know, if you look at Man City, for instance, you know, they've got Gvardiol, who's a left centre-back, left-back. You know, I think Liverpool are probably missing out on that, but you've got Van Dijk, so he's kind of like an anomaly, really. Chelsea obviously have Badashile and Levi Colwill, who are left-side centre-backs. You look at Real Madrid, again, David Alaba coming as a left-side centre-back. But obviously he's been blighted by injury. Again, Barcelona have got Inigo Martinez, because that left-sided centre-back has the balance for the team. You know, and then you look at Inter Milan, you know, they play three at the back, but you got Bastoni, who's a left-sided centre-back. Bayern Munich, you know, I think Bayern Munich don't have a left-sided centre-back, really. So who knows, they might be in the market for one of them, you know, because they play Kim Min-jae, and obviously has been Eric Dyer at times. And who's the other centre-back? I forget who it is. Who's Bayern's other centre-back? Kim Min-jae, Eric Dyer, and there's someone else. I can't remember who the other centre-back is. But where I'm going with this, guys, as I said, you know, I think he'll be highly sought after, I believe, if he proves his fitness for next season. You know, and again, he was bought for 43 million. I think you'd possibly say, because of his injuries, his value is probably around the same, I would say. But I think there'll be a lot of teams looking at him next season, if he, as I said, if he can prove his fitness, because he's someone that is rare in the game in terms of his profile, you know. And I think definitely, yeah, he's someone that needs to be that needs to be snapped up, I believe, by probably the bigger clubs, you know. But it's going to be down to him if he can stay fit. That's what I would say. But yeah, guys, what I'll do, I'll go through your questions. As I said, I'll get to everyone's questions, but big up yourselves anyway. Guys, we've only got 8 likes on there, so if you're just coming in now, make sure you smash that like button. At least try and hit 10 likes. All it is just one press of the button. Obviously helps the channel to grow. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel as well, make sure you do. But big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. So Gamer says, did you see Carragher and Neville's team 11 last night? I did. As I said, you know, with Carragher and Neville, I was confident on the players that they would pick, you know. So I said that they will pick Van Dijk, you know. I said that Declan Rice they would pick. Salah, Isak, Morgan Gibbs-White. So, yeah, I knew that they'll pick them because a lot of them players, again, were nominated for Player of the Season. And obviously, as we know, Sky Sports, yeah, those guys are, you know, they're one of the poster boys for they're the poster boys for Sky Sports, really. So it didn't surprise me the team they picked. I think if I remember right, Gary Neville's team had, I think was Matt Sells in goal. I think right back he had Daniel Munoz from Crystal Palace, who's a very good player. I think left back was Lewis Skelly. And then I think he had Van Dijk and I think it might have been Milenkovic, I think it might have been. That's Gary Neville's team. And Gary Neville, I think, had in midfield. I can't remember now who he had in midfield. Let me just check it, guys. I can't actually remember who he had. Guys, bear me 1 minute. I'm going to try and get the team. Or if anyone knows the team of the season who he picked. I know it was Isak and Salah as the front three. And I think, was it Morgan Rogers or something? Don't matter anyway. But yeah, just going back to it, I think the players that both of them picked, I think Carragher had Gibbs, White, Isak and Salah as a front three. He had Declan Rice, Alexis McAllister. That's one that Exedra said as well. And I think, I think Gary Neville had Caicedo in midfield, I believe, you know. But, yeah, as I said, I think, you know, I wasn't surprised in what they picked, to be honest with you. Obviously, if you've seen our one that we done, I might just tell you now. So, me and Exedra, obviously, along with the chat as well, we agreed on the goalkeeper was David Raya. We said, so we done it in a, so we changed the formation actually, because we done a 4-2-3-1 to play a number 10. But then because we had a centre-back that we deserved, that we thought deserved a mention, we took out an attacker to put in another defender. So the back three that we had was right side centre-back Ibrahima Konate, left side centre-back Gabriel, and then in the middle, Virgil van Dijk. And I think that combination there, you know, that's probably the perfect balance in terms of pace, strength, composure on the ball, leadership, you know, winning mentality. I think that three there has everything, you know, because you've got Konate and Gabriel, who are quick down the sides. Obviously, Gabriel's left-footed for the balance. Konate right foot for the balance, you know, and then you've got Virgil van Dijk, the captain, who organises, you know. So for me, that balance is perfect. The two wing backs, we went for, and again, you know what? I just remembered, like Daniel Munoz. I think he deserves a mention because as the wing back, yeah, he probably should have been the pick. But we went for Livramento as a right wing back, and then Marc Cucurella as the left wing back, you know, and I think both players have had a great season. You know, I think Cucurella, for me, I think he's got 5 goals. I'm not sure how much that is in comparison to the amount of other defenders or fullbacks, but I think he's definitely one of the highest. So we went for Livramento right wing back, Cucurella left wing back. Then the midfield two, we went for Caicedo and Gravenberch. You know, I think Gravenberch definitely. You know, there was notable mentions for McAllister, for Sandro Tonali, you know, for Yuri Tillemans as well. But for me, Moises Caicedo is a definite in there. And then for me, Gravenberch, again, Liverpool winning the league, you know, played a massive part, has to be in there as well. And we mentioned that as well, Romeo Lavia, for me, I think if Lavia stays fit, you know, just like Reece James, if both of them stay fit, you're looking at 2 of the best players in the league in their positions, you know, because I think the combination of Lavia and Caicedo together, I think they probably ain't a better combination in the league. I think you probably say, you know, Gravenberch and McAllister could rival that this season. But I think those two together, you know, I think there's not a better pairing for me. So we had Caicedo and Gravenberch. And then the 3, obviously we had Mo Salah. You know, I think there's no debate there with his numbers. You know, Alexander Isak as the striker. And on the left, it was a pick between Morgan Rogers and Matthias Cunha. So we had Cunha originally from the left and Rogers as the 10. But because we put Konate in there as the extra centre-back, we took out Cunha and put in Morgan Rogers. Because I had to find a place for Rogers. I think Rogers has been one of the best players this season, you know. So, yeah, guys, that was our team. So our team was, as I said, David Raya in goal, back three of Konate, Gabriel and Van Dijk, the two wing-backs of Cucurella and Livramento, two in midfield of Caicedo and Gravenberch, and in the front three of Mo Salah from the right, Morgan Rogers from the left, and Alexander Isak as a striker. And I think that team there, guys, I don't see how you beat that team personally. I think that's a solid team. You know, that team will take some stopping. You know, I think if we're being picky, the positions that we could probably say you could change some players, if we're being honest, might be the wing backs. You know, you might go over Munoz or you might go over Kirkes instead of Cucurella. But I think everything else, I think, is pretty solid. Again, in goal, you know, Alisson, you know, Matt Sells had a very good season. But I think we settled on David Raya. But yeah, I think again, it's it was interesting, man. But it was a lot of players that we were debating over. But with the help of the chat, we kind of come to a decision. So yeah, let's see. So Nathan mentioned something. So Nathan says, see if I can find it. So Declan is 100% worth it, buddy. What, 100 million is worth, yeah? Well, I think if you're buying someone for 100 million, you should be expecting to at least win a trophy. So I think we can't say he's worth it now. I mean, yeah, it's been his best goal scoring season. I think he's got 9 league goals. You know, obviously the Champions League free kicks, which were great free kicks to be fair, but ultimately they didn't go over the line. So all that means nothing really, you know. So Exedra says, is that why Arsenal fans, to Nathan, is that why Arsenal fans were begging Partey to be available for the PSG second leg? And again, that's a good answer, because I think Thomas Partey is gone under the radar, really, because Declan Rice, I think because of the English hype, you know, the free kicks that he scored against Real Madrid. But let's face it, Thomas Partey has been their key midfielder, you know, and Declan Rice is getting the plaudits, but Thomas Partey has held that midfield together. And obviously Martin Zubimendi's coming in now. Is that going to, obviously that's a replacement for Jorginho, but how's that midfield going to work now? Because you would assume that Zubimendi's coming in to start, but are you going to play a midfield of Zubimendi, Partey and Rice? Because where does Odegaard fit in that? So this is going to be interesting, because I think if Zubimendi replaces Partey, I think that makes Arsenal's midfield weaker, especially from a physicality point, you know, because Zubimendi can get on the ball, keep it ticking. But I think in terms of the Premier League and what the Premier League requires, I think not having a Thomas Partey in there and you replacing him with Zubimendi, I think Arsenal could struggle, if I'm honest, you know. But again, that's something for Arteta to sort out. Guys, come on, we've only got 9 likes, you know. Let's try and get up to 10 likes at least. As I said, if you're new in here, make sure you smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to my channel as well. So let's see. So Lovebug1337 says, are you the guy that featured on the Football Excel show with comedian Lou Skunt? No, I'm not. I'm not even sure who that is, but big up for coming on. Yeah, I agree with Zedjo. I think Declan Rice is overhyped. He is overhyped. Let's be honest. He is very overhyped. You know, I think Declan Rice is a good player. Don't get me wrong, and the finish against Newcastle was very good. But you would think that this guy is the best central midfielder in the world. The way that they talk about him, and for me, he's comfortably not even in the top 5. You know, I can name 5 central midfielders better than him. Vitinha. Well, just look at the 2 at PSG. Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz are better than him. That's already 2. Pedri and Frankie de Jong, that's 4. Camavinga, 5. You know, he's probably on par with Tchouaméni, I would say. You know, yeah, I mean, we can go on. Moises Caicedo is better than him. That's 6. You know, if Lavia's fit, 7. Like, there's midfield, McAllister, 8. Gravenberch, 9. Like, there's loads of players that are better than him. But again, he's got the English hype. And there's obviously players that I've missed out as well. Casemiro, you know, 10. So, yeah, as I said, man, there are players better than him. Let's have a see. So at Nathan, by that argument, Coutinho must be the best Prem player ever. I mean, to be honest with you, for me, Coutinho is one of the best for sure, you know. And I think he's someone that gets overlooked, even by myself, you know, because when I talk about the best players in the Premier League or the best players to ever play in the Premier League, you know, for me, he's not in the top 3, but he's definitely up there for me, Coutinho, because at Liverpool, when he came into his own, I think he came into his own once Suarez left, I would say. I think he took over that mantle. Obviously, number 10 on his back as well. But at Liverpool, when he came into his own, he was one of the best players in the world at that time, which is what prompted Barcelona to sign him for 100+ million, you know. I wouldn't say he's the best Prem player ever, but he's definitely up there, you know. Because that best Prem player ever, for me, has to be Henry. But there's other players that deserve to be in that conversation. And I think Coutinho is just below that. But top player, man. Let's see. Yeah, big up DXR. Yeah, so yeah, Neville and Carragher gave their pick, man. I can't remember what their exact team was, but from what we discussed, as I said, I think we said that Van Dijk, Salah, Isak, Declan Rice. So Carragher had Declan Rice in his team. Gary Neville didn't. Carragher had Morgan Gibbs-White in his team. Gary Neville didn't. But they had a lot of players that we suggest that we thought. I think the one surprise that both of them didn't have, which I was surprised about, was none of them picked Alexander-Arnold. Like, I thought both of them would have picked him because, you know, he's a darling of both of this. But yeah, both of them didn't pick him, which I was surprised at, really. So at Nathan, and in no world is he top 5 best players ever. Nathan, we just don't agree as to best players ever. What he thinks? Wait, so Nathan thinks Declan Rice is the top 5 best players. Oh, do you think, Nathan? What do you think is the best player ever, top 5, or just the best player, best midfielder in the top 5? Let us know, man, because we need some kind of context on that, because I need to understand what you mean. Nathan, Rice got to do it one more season, or he's just Ramsey. Yeah, that's not a bad shout, to be fair, Ramsey. The thing is, when people say Rice is a top player, I mean, I think this top player, it depends what context that is, because if I'm looking in the Premier League, is he a very good Premier League player? He is. But when we're talking about top player, I mean, this is talking about around Europe. And for me, he's not that. He's not. I think the Premier League, you know, you could say he's a very good player in the Premier League. But to say he's a top player, nah, no way. I think what's happening is that people are just getting carried away with the free kicks against Real Madrid, because that's propelled him into this top player talk, or, you know, he's world class because of the free kicks. But when it came that, and bearing in mind that was a poor Real Madrid performance as well. But when it came to against PSG, who are now in the final, what did he do in that semi-final? The answer is nothing. So it depends what we're describing as top player. For me, he's a very good player, but nothing more. You know. Big up to Vrishin Medapati. So Vrishin says, what do you think the Tottenham midfield will look like? For me, I think he plays a midfield 3. I know there's talk about Lucas Bergvall Lucas Bergvall coming back. I'm not sure whether that's true, but what I would say, if Bergvall is fit, I think that makes it difficult for United again because, as I mentioned earlier, you know, if Rasmus Højlund plays and the ball is just coming backwards and forwards all the time, I think having because I think they'll play a midfield three, and I think having Bergvall's energy in there is going to cause all sorts of problems because he'll be able to get onto the ball and get the ball quickly in transition, playing it out to the flanks where they can use their pace. And I think that might be a game plan that Tottenham might do. So personally, I think if Bergvall is fit, you know, that will make it even more difficult, I believe, for United because of his energy. But again, if Papa Sarr plays, he's got energy. But I think Bergvall is probably a bit more direct, I would say, you know. So again, if Bergvall's not fit, I think the midfield three that they're going to play, again, there's no Maddison, no Kulusevski. So I think the midfield three they'll play is Basuma, Bentancur and Papa Sarr. But if Bergvall's fit, which I don't know if that's going to happen, it'll just be Bergvall for Papa Sarr, in my opinion. But I think Papa Sarr might play because I don't think Bergvall will be fit. If he is fit, he might be on the bench. But whatever combination they play, it's going to be high energy, you know. And this is why I think the manager's going to play. This is why I think Amorim is going to play Ugarte. Because I think if he plays Bruno and Casemiro, that energy might overwhelm both of them. Especially if you've got a striker in Rasmus Højlund that can't hold the ball. You know, because on the transition, those three, you know, because Basuma's very good in possession. You know, Bentancur's a box-to-box. And then you've got the energy of either Sarr or what's his name, or Bergvall, and that will cause problems. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. DXR says Coutinho transferred messed up the whole market, and Neymar's transfers was the nail in the coffin. Yeah. I think what it was, I think it was the Neymar one. The Neymar one, you know, because I remember when I got triggered by PSG. I think that was an eye opener because again, if anyone doesn't know, in La Liga, every player has a release clause. And the release clause that Barca put for Neymar, you know, you could actually say that release clause that Barca had for Neymar was a bit lazy on their part. You know, the way that I look at it is I'm seeing it as, it's 200 and something mil. No one's gonna trigger that, you know. But I think Barca have obviously more evidence in terms of finances, probably from how finances work around Europe or whatever. So they should have seen this and thought, you know, someone might actually trigger this. But a player like Neymar, I think his release clause was like 200 and something million. And PSG triggered that, which again was unheard of and was surprising. And ever since that, you can see what Barca do now with their players. So someone like Lamine Yamal, for instance, I know definitely Pedri, but their release clause is something like £1 billion, which means you're not ever getting them unless the players come forward and say they want to leave and you can agree a suitable offer. So yeah, as I said, man, I think that Neymar transfer was an eye opener, but I think now, yeah, he's I think Barca now have obviously that's opened their eyes, really, I would say, you know. And Nathan says 95 million was overpaying for Declan. We can agree to disagree. Listen, Declan Rice, let's be honest with you, yeah. If we're being honest, is a £60 million player. 60 million, I would say. No way is he a £100 million player, you know. Probably to West Ham, he's probably a £100 million player to West Ham because they're looking at it as player that's come through the youth, captain, England international hype, you know. So to them, he's probably worth 100 mil. But if we're being deadly honest, he's a £60 million player, you know, and Arsenal paid that money for him. And Arsenal will tell you that, and a lot of their fans probably tell you he's been valued for money. But at the end of the day, there's been no trophies to show. So how can he be? You know, if he got a league title for them or a Champions League and he was a major part in that, you would say, do you know what? Yeah, that was probably worth the money. But that hasn't happened. So he can't be worth 100 million. regardless if he's got 9 goals this season. Like, it doesn't make any difference, you know. But yeah, big up, man, anyway. So Zedra says, he had Lewis, Lewis, Skelly, Rice, and Gibbs White. So we was debating over Lewis Skelly as well, but we went for Cucurella. And I think Cucurella, that doesn't really get much of a mention as in the team of the season. But I think Zedra mentioned it. You know, without Cucurella this season, where would Chelsea actually be? Because he has popped up with some vital goals for them, you know, and he's someone, I think, when he first came in, it was hard to see if he was going to last. And if we look at it now, he's arguably one of their most important players, you know. So, yeah. Let's have a look. So DXR says, Gav, you're going to do a watch along for the final. Yeah, I am. As I said, if you want to jump on and let me know and I can send you the link. As I said, I'm gonna be I'll be live at 7:45, which is obviously 15 minutes before kickoff. And for me, it's the lineup I want to see. That's the main thing. You know, if he puts out the lineup, because I can predict his lineup, and I'm gonna predict his lineup right now. You know, and for me, this is dependent on the injuries. Let's say, for instance, there's no Dallo, Lenny Yoro, De Ligt, not playing. The lineup he's going to go with, you know, is going to be more or less similar team to what he played at Chelsea. So I think he'll play Onana in goal. Again, this is based on no injuries, guys. The injuries being out, should I say. So I think he'll play Onana, the back three of... The back three of... I think he'll play Mazraoui as a right side centre-back, Harry Maguire, and then I think it's a toss-up between Luke Shaw and Lindelof. And I think he might pick Luke Shaw because of the balance. And for him to deal with Brennan Johnson, I think, as well. Then I think he plays the two in midfield. For me, he's going to play Casemiro and Ugarte, purely because of the energy that Tottenham will have in midfield. And he's going to need Ugarte's legs. And then he's going to play the two wing-backs. I think he plays Ahmad right wing-back, Dorgu left wing-back. And then he plays the two in behind the striker. And I think he plays Bruno Fernandes on the left, Mason Mount, and Højlund. I think that's the way he might go, if I'm honest. So, yeah. But I think if, let's say, Yoro's back and Dallo's back, I think those two, if we're looking at them two definitely to be back, I think. Then I think what he does is that he plays Lenny Yoro right side... No, I think he plays Lenny Yoro left side centre-back, Mazraoui right side centre-back, Harry Maguire in the middle of the three. Then I think he plays Dallo right wing-back, Dorgu left wing-back, Casemiro Ugarte, Bruno Ahmad, Højlund. I think that's what he might do if those two are back, you know. So, yeah, I think that's what he's going to do, you know. I think the likes of Garnacho, I don't think starts, because for me, if he's going to start Dallo and Yoro, Garnacho doesn't start, because he's got to find a way of fitting in Yoro, Dallo, Mazraoui, and Ahmad. And that means someone's going to miss it. And Ahmad, if Dallo and Yoro are back, Ahmad will play in the 10. And Ahmad should be playing in the 10 anyway. But I think that's what he's going to do, yeah. And I'm pretty confident with what he's going to do there. So, just going back onto the team. So, yeah, so Neville's team was Raya. Oh, we had Trent, did he? Salah. No, that isn't Neville's team. Is it? Trent, Saliba, Van Dijk, Gavardio. No, that wasn't Neville's team. Surely not. Gravenberch, Caicedo, yeah. Salah, Palmer, Cunha, Wood. I remember Wood being there, I think. Cunha. No, I'm pretty sure that wasn't Neville's team. I don't think he had Saliba there. I think he had Milenkovic. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't his team. I swear it's something else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes was in there. Yeah, I thought he was. Neville picked Guimaraes, Carragher picked Tonali in. Yeah. I think exactly. I think that team you picked there. I don't think that was Neville's team, because I don't think he had Trent in there. I don't think Saliba was in there either. Gvardiol wasn't in there, and Gravenberch, I think was. Caicedo, I think was as well. Salah was. I don't think Palmer was in there, and I think Chris Wood might have been there. I don't think Cunha was. You know, I'm pretty sure of that. So Nathan says United going in for Cunha for 62.5 million. Yeah, listen, Nathan. I mean, I'm not pretty sure. I'm not sure why you're laughing, but because you guys were looking at Cunha, and you know, you guys have got Martinelli and Trossard on the wing. So I don't know what's to laugh about really, because if Arsenal want to be taken seriously, then those two players ain't gonna be the level. So and Cunha is an upgrade on both of them. You know, do I want Cunha at United? Of course. I mean, for me, either him or Eze, you know, I think would be perfect on that left-hand side. But again, from what you've heard me say before, I'm basing this on not Amorim being the manager. I'm basing it on being a club signing. So if I'm looking at it as a club signing, yeah, 100% Cunha. You know, Cunha or Eze for me, if we're looking at left side attackers, you know, or 10s. Caicedo and Gravenberch is a cheat code. Well, yeah, I mean, Caicedo and Lavia, you can arguably say that as well. You know, I think, yeah, that midfield has everything. You know, press resistant, you know, tenacious, can pass, you know, can dribble. Like, they've got a lot, you know, can shoot. So, yeah, that is a very good midfield, to be fair. Caicedo and Gravenberch. So the team of the season for Cara and Gary. Yeah. So this is more like it. So VVD, Skelly, yeah, that is exactly what I see actually. Yeah, I think from what we said that what they might do, or who they might pick, we said Van Dijk, we said Rice, we said Salah, we said Isak and Gibbs White. Yeah, so I think one of them picked. I think, yeah, Carragher picked Rice, Neville picked Tonali, Carragher picked Gibbs White, both of them picked Salah and Isak, and I think both of them picked Van Dijk, and I think Gary Neville picked Milenkovic and Munoz, and Carragher picked Alisson. Oh, and Gary Neville picked Skelly. Yeah, Lewis Skelly. So, yeah. So, fam, I think 67 million max, dude, maybe. What, who's that? Is that for Declan Rice, DXR? You think he's worth 75 million? I think English tax, 75 million, probably. You know, I think if we're being realistic, 60 million. But there's no way he's a £100 million player. No way. No way. Big up to Ed M. Ed M says his Premier League team of the season is Sells, Alexander-Arnold, Murillo, Van Dijk, Kirkes, Gravenberch, Baleba, Salah, Rogers, Cunha, Isak. Ed, that's not a bad team, to be fair. And I'm glad you put Baleba in there as well, because Baleba, for me, is a top player. And if you've seen any of my content, you know that he's someone that Man United should make their main midfield target. As I said, I think he's going to be the next big midfielder, especially in the Premier League. You know, 21 years of age, left-footed, tenacious, press-resistant as well. He's going to be someone that the big clubs will be looking at. So I'm glad you put him in there. Matt Sells, good season. Trent, I think if we're looking at right back, I mean, I think there are other defenders that could feel that they're better than him. You know, the likes of Livramento. I know Munoz has been playing as a wing back. You know, Yuri and Timber, Mazraoui. You know, Mazraoui ain't talked about enough for me. Murillo, very good season. Van Dijk, for me, yeah, that's automatic, I think. Kirkes, again, I think, yeah, that's been someone, because I think for me at left back, it was between Kirkes and Cucurella. And probably Lewis Skelly, I would say, as the most consistent, you know. Gravenberch, definitely. For me, Moises Caicedo has to be in there, because I think Gravenberch is in there for Liverpool winning the league. But would you say Gravenberch has been better than Caicedo? Because I think Caicedo has been the best midfielder in the league this season. And to leave him out, I don't get it, you know. I think he's a definite to be in there. Salah, again, the numbers. Morgan Rogers, yeah, for me, definitely. Cunha, yeah, I can see that. I think the biggest problem as well, what we had, meaning that you had on picking the team, is the left side attackers. There wasn't too many good performers, you know, and I think Cunha goes in there because he's been the standout. Because I couldn't think of anyone, unless you're going to change the formation and put Rodgers out there to compete. But I think in terms of left side attackers, there weren't really no one that I was looking at thinking, yeah, that attacker is definitely in the conversation. I think Cunha is definitely the standout one for me, which I think it just shows you really that the quality in the league was poor, because to have only one player for me that definitely deserves to be in the conversation, you know, is surprising. But yeah, I think, and Isak again, yeah, Isak for me is the best striker in the league right now in terms of how he's performed. You know, I think Erling Haaland, obviously, you know, with the numbers, might have something to say about that. I think potentially, I think Joshua Zirkzee, if he's restored to the striker, I think potentially he's going to be up there as well, definitely. I think I have no doubts about Zirkzee. I think if he's just playing in a team that does want to create chances and, you know, has more footballers in the team that want to play the right way, there's no doubting that he's gonna excel, man, for me. DXR says, if you watch AFTV, Nathan says, at DXR, AFTV is full of rival fans. No proper Arsenal supporter watches that shit. But again, this proper Arsenal supporter, Nathan, if you're still in the chat, what makes you a proper Arsenal supporter? That's what I would like to know, because, you know, it's a bit like, it's a bit outrageous to say that no proper Arsenal supporter watches that, because everyone can support a team in their own way. There ain't no such thing as a proper Arsenal supporter or a proper Man United supporter. And everyone's entitled to their own opinions, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, no one should be saying that this person is a proper supporter or whatever. You know, it's entirely down to how you see your football club, you know. That's what it's about. So let's have a look. So Nathan says, you was doing well then. Then you say Lavia is better than Declan Rice. Yeah, gone. So again, when I'm saying Lavia is better than Declan Rice, okay, you have to apply context to what I've said, because you're just taking it at face value and just running off on your own agenda. When I'm saying Lavia is better than Declan Rice, he's a better footballer than Declan Rice. Who's ahead in their career right now in terms of, you know, who's playing more regularly, you know, who's probably ahead in terms of, you know, consistency? You would say Declan Rice, because Declan Rice is playing week in, week out. Lavia obviously is injury prone. So that's the context. But if we're talking about a footballer who's a better footballer, there's no way you're going to tell me Declan Rice is a better footballer than Lavia. He's not. So that's your context there, Nathan, you know. So Zedras, DXR says, Real Madrid on fire already. And again, this is what I rate about Real Madrid, you know. Real Madrid have had a shocking season, you know, no Champions League, no La Liga, no Copa del Rey, you know. So they've won absolutely nothing this season. And they've gone and got Dean Huyson from Bournemouth, agreed a deal, even though Bournemouth still got a game left to play. And they're looking at, so I think there's someone else they're looking at as well. Can't remember the name, but yeah, they're looking to make some signings. You know, obviously, well, they've got Xabi Alonso. the new manager incoming, and obviously he's told the ball to keep Luka Modric for one more season as well. So yeah, as I said, man, they're a team that are not going to play about, and I think them, Man City for sure. Because if you look at it this way, Man City and Real Madrid have both had similar seasons in terms of the expectation of both teams has not been met. You know, Man City have gone through the season not winning anything, and that's only happened in Pep's first season, which is understandable. And Real Madrid haven't won any major trophy. So you'd expect both them teams to be acting in the market and getting jobs, getting signings done. You know, and who Man City have been linked with, I think the Premier League need to be put on notice because they're going to be causing problems, those players, when they bring them in. Let's have a look. So, listen, DXR, great question, man. Exedra, what's wrong with Madrid? Why are they not building around Arda Güler? Yeah, I tell you why they're not building around Arda Güler is because, as I've said plenty of times, you know, for some reason, Jude Bellingham has found himself as a number 10. You know, I've never seen a player, you know, that is so not like a number 10. You know, Jude Bellingham's a box-to-box midfielder, but for some reason, again, Real Madrid, I mean, I know Ancelotti, you know, he just puts players on the pitch. And I think a lot of this comes down to do with players are getting picked on their reputation, you know. And I think Jude Bellingham's one of them. Because to think that Jude Bellingham is playing in the team as a number 10 ahead of Arda Güler, ahead of Brahim Diaz, doesn't make any sense. And again, Xabi Alonso coming in, I want to see what he does because is he going to go to his three-at-the-back system that he played at Bayer Leverkusen with the wing-backs? You know, he could do, which will mean that there's no number 10, which might be a better thing for them. But then they'll have wing-backs, which will mean there's no wide player, really. So that in itself will make Vinicius Junior, Mbappe, and Rodrigo, if he stays, they'll be more central players. So I think the fact they've brought in Xabi Alonso, if we're assuming he's going to play a three at the back, I think personally they got Xabi Alonso in on purpose, knowing that he's going to play a formation which is going to make that front three of Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, and Rodrigo not having to play out wide. I think that might be the thinking because, as you know, in the 3-4-3, 3-5-2 system, whatever formation he plays, the width comes from the wing backs. So that means you might, if he does play the three at the back, Vinicius Junior is not going to be playing as a left winger no more. You know, Rodrigo won't be playing as a right winger. They'll be playing more central, which probably will allow them to get more goals as well. So I think that's a masterstroke from Real Madrid in getting Xabi Alonso. You know, and if they change their formation, again, you're not going to see Bellingham playing as a 10. And you might even see the likes of Arda Güler getting more game time. But I think with Arda Güler, if he's not getting game time this season, next season, he has to move on for sure, man, definitely. But yeah, he's a top player for me, Güler. Oh, DXR's already asked that. So yeah, as I said, I think that front three become not wingers no more. You know, so they'll be playing closer to each other. I still think Rodrigo should move on for a betterment of his career, but I think definitely that front three there will be playing infield, and there'll be no winger. So I think you might see, you know, those guys probably get more goals from that. Because if you look at how he played with Florian Wirtz was a number 10, playing from the left, but more or less had a free role to go where he wants. Now, if they're going to do that with, I'm thinking of a player that's like a 10 that can go where he wants. I think the obvious one is Arda Güler. Jude Bellingham might become a central midfielder in this system. But again, you've got Camavinga and Valverde. And again, Valverde, another player that I rate higher than Declan Rice. Big up, Nathan. So I think with what's his name? With Bellingham, where does he actually feature in this Xabi Alonso system? Because if you want two central midfielders that are disciplined in there, that add balance, like what he had with Granit Xhaka and Palacios, then you're going to play Camavinga and Valverde in there, or Tchouaméni and Camavinga, because Camavinga's left-footed. And then if you want the fluid free, so it's going to be, you got Rodrigo, Vinicius, Mbappe, you know, Arda Güler, all to fit in there. So I don't know how it's going to work for them, but DXR is saying Bellingham might play a false nine. I don't see how Bellingham plays a false nine, and then because you've got Vinicius Junior, Mbappe, unless you're going to play Vinicius Junior and Mbappe as split strikers. Even if you are going to play a false nine, Bellingham can't play a false nine with two split strikers, because that false nine requires a technical player to play that position. So Bellingham is a box-to-box box crasher, so he can't play the false nine if you're going to play split strikers. The ideal player to play split strikers with is Rodrigo, playing as a false nine. So Rodrigo can link the play, drop back into midfield to have the pace of Vinicius Junior and Mbappe as split strikers. So in this system, if he does play with the split strikers, Rodrigo would be ideal for that, to play as the false nine. But which means Bellingham might miss out, because, as I said, the central midfield, you need discipline in there and balance. And Camavinga, Tchouaméni and Valverde would offer that, along with, obviously, the experience of Modric. So, yeah, that's something to think about, man. Bellingham is like a more technical Ugarte in terms of how he plays. Not quite technical enough to be a 10 and not quite enough to be a 6. You know what? I mean, I don't rate Ugarte not one bit personally. You know, in terms of what he does, he's a ball winner. I hear that. But in terms of his quality on the ball, he hasn't got it. For me, Bellingham is very reminiscent of Scott McTominay. You know, I think him and McTominay are ideal, I would say. You know, both of them are athletes. Both of them are box crashers. You know, both of them are players that, you know, in the final third can get a goal. You know, both of them are not the most technically gifted players. So I would say he's more like a McTominay than a Ugarte. You know, I think, you know, I would say Bellingham is a better footballer than Ugarte. You know, but that's not really a challenge, let's be honest. But as I said, I think in terms of him being a 10, he's nowhere near a 10. Bellingham's not a 10, he's not a 6. He's just a box-to-box midfielder. That's it. DXR says, by the way, guys, I'm hearing Rodrigo wants out. Yeah, but the thing is, you can't really blame Rodrigo for wanting out, because, as I said, he needs to get out under the shadow of both Mbappe and Vinicius Junior, really. And then you've got Bellingham's profile as well, which is ahead of him. So he does need to get out for the betterment of his career. And again, if he does decide to leave, because I don't believe that Real Madrid are going to sell him. I think if anyone wants Rodrigo, I think the starting point might be 100 million, which is going to be a lot of money. But he won't have any shortage of takers. You know, you're looking at City, Chelsea in the Premier League that probably could afford him and would want him. Liverpool, you know, he won't have any shortage of takers, definitely. But it's whether Real Madrid are willing to do a deal, you know, for a fee, which, again, we'll have to wait and see. But I think if he comes out and says he wants to leave, that's when they'll have a decision to make. So, yeah, guys, come on, keep smashing the like button. Got 12 likes in here at the moment. As I said, if you're new in here, smash that like button, help the channel to grow, and subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn if you enjoy the content. And guys, check out my other content as well. Got some good content on there, you know, and as I said, you know, just help the channel to keep growing, man, if you do appreciate, you know, obviously this is free. You know, you're getting some good content out there, some good knowledge in football. And again, if you guys got any questions for me about football, feel free to drop that in, guys. But big up yourselves. Yeah, the news about Dallo, Yoro, and Xerxes, I've heard, yeah. But for me, I don't expect Xerxes to be involved. I think, at best, he might be on the bench. But I don't think he'll come on, for most, because he ain't match fit. I think Dallo and Yoro might be involved, but whether they start or not is to be seen. Yeah, Gamer, that's a good one, man, to be fair. Newcastle try and get Eze to partner him with Isak. Yeah, for me, as I said, they need to get an Eze. Again, Palace just won the FA Cup, so his price tag might be slightly higher now, especially them being in Europe. Yeah, for me, I think, I've mentioned before to you anyway, Mbuemo, Cunha, Eze, they need players of that ilk to come to their team and make a difference in them attacking areas to help Isak. I agree. Gav, you also mentioned Munoz for right back, so that was a great shout to, as was McAllister. Yeah, 100%. As I said Munoz, but Munoz has been playing more as a wing back. So I was just doing it based on the actual positions, you know. But again, yeah, Munoz is someone that I reckon there'll be a few teams looking at him. I don't think Palace sell him, and I think Palace will probably start the bidding at about 40 million for him. But he's been a revelation for them, to be fair, this season, man. He's done very well. So yeah, he had a good season, man. Big up to Lumi Rain. Yeah, big up Lumi for coming on. Yeah, listen, Adam Wharton's a top player, man. He's someone for me is a Michael Carrick. You know, Carrick in his era was underrated, and I think Wharton will have a similar impact to that. You know, I think in terms of his composure on the ball, and as I mentioned the other day with Wharton, you're not meant to get players like that are just, you know, just so calm on the ball. Like he plays like a European player, like someone that was born like in Spain or Holland. The composure he has, you know, and when you get players like this that are English, you know, we have to protect them, because players like this don't come around too often. And for me, Palace are going to ask for mad money. As I said, they wanted 70 million. They wanted more than 70 million for Mark Guehi, and Wharton for me will be similar. So I don't see Wharton leaving anytime soon, especially that they're in Europe now as well. I do see him leaving them eventually, but it's going to be for probably about 100 mil, you would say, if he keeps carrying on the way he is. But yeah, he's a top player, Adam Wharton. Lewis Skelly, best young player this season. I don't know, possibly. I mean, I'll have to have a look at who the other contenders are, but he's definitely up there, I would say. Yeah, definitely up there. Yeah, definitely up there, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's Gary. Yeah, that was Gary Neville's team. Tillemans and Bruno Guimaraes. Yeah. Yeah, Milenkovic, as I said. Mbuemo, yeah, Salah. Well, the thing is, he's gone for Mbuemo on the left. Again, I think if we're basing it on where they've been playing, I think he's just chucked Mbuemo in there, as he said, for the numbers. But I think we have to base it on where they've been playing. And it's, again, Mbuemo's had a very good season, but you're looking at Mbuemo or Salah. And Salah's going to get in there for the numbers and the fact that Liverpool won the league as well. So, Gravenberch and Tillemans, again, I think Caicedo deserves to be in there. But Tillemans had a very good season. You know, you got Samuel Tonali as well. So, yeah. I mean, that team he's picked there, I mean, it's hard to argue with, really. I think Milenkovic had a good season. I mean, you could say Konate, Gabriel, you know, might be one or two others. Murillo, again, his partner, you could say as well. Kirkez, yeah, and there's no argument there, really, unless you want to put Cucurella in there. Munoz, as we mentioned. Matt Sells, again, as we mentioned as well. So, yeah. Gomez. Oh, okay, so at Lumi Rain, we definitely need to look at free transfer. Don't worry about Angel Gomez. Zedra, listen, I don't worry about Angel Gomez, because Angel Gomez, for me, never should have been let go in the first place. And I think the problem is that too many people are fixated on physicality in the Premiership. You know, look at David Silva. Look at Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva's not strong, but he's an athlete for one, and he's clever. You know, so I don't necessarily feel you need like a physical midfielder alongside him. I just think if you've got a system, yeah, which enables you to play good football, and he's one of the main players for that, the physicality don't really come into it. The way that Ruben Amorim plays, you might say yes, but again, I'm basing this on Amorim not being there because this style of football that Amorim wants to play ain't gonna work. And as I said, he doesn't even deserve to be there, no, be at the club anymore anyway. But Gomez, for me, on a free transfer, definitely needs to be done. To get a player like that, of that quality on a free transfer, and he instantly improves the football, which is what Man United need to be looking at. So, yeah, I don't think a physical player is a necessity. I just think the system needs to be right. And as Exedra said, a 4-3-3, 100%. This 3-4-2-1 that Amrim's playing, Gomez will get found out because just like Kobe, you can't play them as a two in midfield because that position there requires physicality and experience. So you're looking at him as a number 10. So again, I'm looking at the formation change under a new manager, bringing in these kind of players. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. End of the season will let me know what's really going on to see what the plans are. Black Tomini, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So Sham says, I want Liverpool to go for Rodrigo. Yeah, I don't see that happening. You can dream, Sham, man, but that ain't gonna happen. I think if Rodrigo goes anywhere in the Premier League, it's either gonna be Chelsea or Man City. And I think the Chelsea move is crying out for Rodrigo because you've got the likes of Sancho, who looking like he's going to be sent back to United, and I for one happy about that because I want Sancho back in this squad. And you got Mudryk, obviously, who's had this ban, so that left hand side is open for Rodrigo to go. So if Chelsea get Champions League and Rodrigo wants to be, one of the stars of the team, Chelsea's ideal for him. Personally, I would think. Big up to Savvy Boy. Savvy Boy says, who do you think will get top 5, bro? So top 5 for next season. Oh, top 5 this season, sorry. So obviously Arsenal and Liverpool are already there. So I think it'll be Newcastle, City. And then it's between Chelsea, Aston Villa and Forest. I think Villa beat United, and then it's tough because I can't think Chelsea won't get Champions League from the money they've spent. So I think Forest will miss out, even though they're at home against Chelsea, and what a game that's going to be. But I think Chelsea just need to match Villa's result, and I think Villa beat United, but I think Chelsea will find a way against Nottingham Forest, I believe, So I'm going to say Chelsea, City, Newcastle, and Arsenal, obviously, ready through there, ready. Liverpool as a top 5. Yeah, I think Villa and Forest just miss out. But again, I could be wrong because it's going down to the wire, man, and it could be anyone, I think, imagine if it was Nottingham Forest after all that, but I think they've got the hardest job, even though they're at home. But I think Chelsea will know what's required, and I think Chelsea will just get the win, I believe, And I think Villa beat Man United, but I think Chelsea's goal difference, I think, might be better. So, big up to Tador, Hilary, blah, Liverpool fan here. I'm wearing a Spurs jersey for the final. Go Spurs! Yeah, listen, I I can't blame you, man. The rivalry between United and Liverpool is obviously always going to be there. And as I said, man, it's going to be a final that is to not be missed because, as I said, whoever doesn't win this are in massive trouble, So we have to wait and see. So Nathan says, Alexandra took over the spot in the England squad too, but he hasn't played enough this season. I'm not quite sure you're talking about there, but big up. Guys, listen. If we're here to have positive conversations, man. We're not here to agree on everything, but let's keep it respectful, man. Obviously, it's a community we're trying to build here. You know, if you do enjoy the content, then as I said, contribute. You know, smash that like button and subscribe. So I'm guessing we're talking about Lewis Skelly here, from what I'm seeing. Yeah, the rivalry between Nathan and his edge is mad. Guys, as long as it's respectful, man, you know what I mean? That's the main thing, innit? Because, as I say, we're not here to agree on all opinions. You know, it's about debate, but just keep it respectful. That's all that can be done. We don't want this chat turning into something that it shouldn't be. So Nathan is saying MLS is a generational talent holding down that spot for England. I mean, Nathan, listen, I big up your optimism. I big up your backing of, obviously, Arsenal players. I like Lewis Skelly. I think he's a very good player. But to say he's generational, I think you're getting carried away there, man. Definitely. Because it's his first season, and it's been a very good season for him. But the reality is, you'll get found out over the next few seasons, because it's going to come to a point where, you know, opposition might figure him out, and how's he going to adapt to that? That's the mark of a good player. Because he's had one good season, I'm not going to start listening to generational talk, you know, because you know, you're the same guy that told me Rice is better than Caicedo, so I ain't taking that seriously, you know. But to say he's generational, you're getting carried away. To say that he's a very good player, he is. And at the moment, he's an England international. You know, he's Arsenal's first choice left back now as well. He's got to continue that. And as I said, if he's doing it, you know, 2, 3, 4 seasons down the line, then you might be onto something. But apart from that, I'm not hearing his generational talent talk, because he's only been playing for not even a full season. So let's just calm down, man. But big up your optimism anyway. 100% Gav, no need to get personal with it. It's football and everyone's opinions. David Raya. To be fair, I don't think David Raya has been the best keeper this season. I think, I mean, the best keeper in the league is obviously Alisson. Like, there's no denying that. But I look at keepers like Bart Verbruggen. You know, I think Verbruggen's been very good this season. You know, as good as David Raya. Who else is there? Matt Sells, as you mentioned already. You know, I think there's been keepers that have been as good. But I think David Raya, I think because Arsenal finished second, you know, and he's made a couple of highlight saves, I think that's what's letting people get their judgment clouded, in my opinion. But at Sham, he's not had as high as it all. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. But again, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Opinions. But guys, listen up. Big up everyone for coming on. You know, been going for, yeah, what, hour and 20 minutes, I would say. So yeah, appreciate everyone's contribution as always. You know, as I said, massive game tomorrow. I will be doing a live watch along, guys. So again, if you guys are free, I'll be live at 7:45. And again, if you guys want to come and you know, if you want to jump on the watch along as well with me, then let me know. DM me, and I'll send you the link over. And as I said, Judgment Day tomorrow for Ange Postecoglou and for Ruben Amorim, because regardless of what many United fans are saying about Amorim, if he doesn't win tomorrow, how can he keep his job? That's the question I want to ask. You know, and I think in terms of United's experience in players that have been there and done it, you would fancy United 100%. But something's telling me that Tottenham are going to have something up their sleeve, man, because Postecoglou has said something that looks like it could be coming to truth, you know, and I think he's going to go out on his shield. I think he's going to leave regardless if they win or not. You know, the decision might already be there already, but so he's going to be going out with his team all out to try and make that a reality. So we'll have to wait and see, man. But as I said, guys, I will be there tomorrow, 7:45, and obviously big game, and we're going to see the key matchups as well, and we're going to see what team he goes for. But one thing's for certain, you know, Man United, you know, the future will probably be shaped from this. Well, the future will be shaped from what happens tomorrow in this final. Because, as I said, if they lose tomorrow, you know, financially, the club may be screwed, you know. But if they win tomorrow, as I said, optimism. But for me, the manager has to be relieved of his duties regardless. And United just need to be, you know, going in a different direction from this manager and looking at, as I said, making this team amongst the elite again. And I don't believe that's with this manager, you know. But yeah, as I said, guys, big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. You know, as I said, if it's your first time in there, make sure you smash the like button. We've got 13 likes at the moment. Let's try and at least hit to 15, guys, before the stream ends. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. And as I said, as Shams just said, Judgment Day. And we will be here, guys. So let's hope United get the win. You know, but I think, if I'm being honest with you, I think it's going to be a tough game. And I just wonder if Tottenham have something up their sleeve and get over the that hoodoo of, you know, being perennial bottlers, I would say. But again, we will be there and we're going to see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, big up yourselves each and every time for coming on. Smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. And I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.